All right, we can start now. So this is lesson 11. This is gonna be a more chill kind of lesson. We're not gonna be going into like super deep writing techniques. This is more like what do you do beyond your writing. So the hope is that so far after teaching you guys all the other stuff, uh, you can slowly start to explore, right? You can use that as a foundation to learn new things on your own. But for today, I'm just gonna talk about like stuff that you can try to help improve like your workflows and stuff around writing. All right. Okay. So today we'll talk about some writing techniques, not like the techniques in writing, but like how to do your general writing, right? Self promotion. That's always gonna be quite useful if you intend to like I don't know, get more followers on Fur Affinity or whatever, right? And like, or if you intend to sell a book someday, right? Learning how to do that is gonna be important, right? And experiment with mediums. Yeah. So hopefully that'll be interesting for you guys to kind of learn. Yeah. So writing techniques. Okay. Uh so here are some ways that you can get into writing. Sometimes it can be very hard to pick up uh pen to go and write something. Sometimes it can be very difficult to be productive, right? Or focus. So there are different ways. Free writing. So basically free writing is like you just write quickly and continuously. You don't worry about form, style, grammar. Um you cannot basically the idea is you can always edit later, right? You can edit a bad story into a good story, but you cannot edit a blank page, right? I think like I'm guilty of this. But sometimes we end up doing like we write every sentence as if it's set in stone. Like it's gonna be the final thing on the story, so it has to be perfect. I have to think of the perfect like sentence to put down here, the perfect dialogue, the perfect flow. Like that's not true, right? You can always write something, and you can always go back and edit it. Um, I think that's kind of important to allow yourself to do that, right? So the it's nice to be able to just write without having to think about it. Yeah, so that's like the goal here. That this has helped me. uh there was one time after like dealing with some stuff, I had to take a break for a few months from writing, and because I haven't written in a few months, I came back to it and I got stuck. I'm just like, how am I gonna continue this story? Is that like I think it ended up being like a 15,000 word story. Um, I don't super remember. Like I think it was quite a long story. So like I was getting the end and I was just like, oh, this is gonna be difficult, right? Like, and so I allowed myself to write in a very crappy form. I'm just like, okay, so Ben did this, Jane did this, then Ben said this, then Jane said that, and then this and that. Uh and because I allowed myself to drop the standards, right? I didn't feel like the story was like something that was impossible or something that felt very overwhelming, like something very difficult to start, right? I was literally just, you know what? The writing part comes later. Let's just make the story happen. This, that. Okay, can. Later, I went back and edited. In the end, it almost felt like I threw out almost everything and then started writing again. But the main thing that worked was that it helped me get start writing again. And sometimes when you are in a rut, this kind of technique can be very useful. Otherwise, you can really get stuck. um, yeah. Then editing. So I think this is something that I didn't super go deep into, and this one you will probably want to do research on your own because editing is there's so many layers of editing, right? There's always like the idea of making sure the pacing is good. There's the idea of making sure the sentences are good, the tenses, making sure that like yeah, whatever sensitive topics you're touching on, like race and religion or sexuality, like it's handled in a respectful way. All these forms of editing you gotta go read out on yourself. I don't want it to turn into another three more lessons of editing. Yeah, but a lot of these can help tighten it up, and it's good when you come in with like a fresh pair of eyes, and sometimes like you see like, oh yeah, how did I write this, right? It made sense because I had the scene in my head when I wrote that part, but now that I'm coming in almost as a stranger, like the scene doesn't feel as clear, right? There's a lot of action stuff happening, but I don't even know what the characters are doing, or I don't even know the setting properly. um Speech to text. So some authors actually write speech to text. Like they go on a walk, right? And then they'll just narrate their story. Or they'll do a recording and then they'll go back and then get their secretary or something to type it out for them. Those are like the more established writers. But some people do like use speech to text to help them through. Personally, I have not had much success with it because I do not my brain doesn't work fast enough, right? When you are writing, like the same way you realize your typing speed can be like 100 words a minute, right? But you're not writing 6,000 words an hour, right? The reason is because your brain works slower than you type, right? Your brain is just like, oh, what happens next? How should I phrase this? What are the characters doing? Right? Your brain is like the limiting part. So talking it out is not really like the limiting factor for me. But some people do feel it's helpful, right? Where they just narrate and narrate and narrate, and then like they can edit it later, right? So long as you have something on the page, right, you can edit it. If you have an empty page, nothing, like you can't do anything, you can't improve, right? There's also a Pomodoro technique. So this is kind of like separate from, this is not exactly writing specific. This is related to productivity in general. But the idea is you write for 25 minutes or you work for 25 minutes, then you rest 5 minutes. And then you repeat this cycle, right? You work 25, you rest 5. You work 25, you rest 5. But every fourth cycle, instead of a 5 minute break, you take a 30-minute break. So this one is quite helpful. Depending on how comfortable you feel, you can change the timings as well. So for instance, let's say a certain day you don't feel as productive or working feels extra hard. Instead of 25 minutes, you can do 15 minutes or even 10 minutes, right? I think the important thing is that it helps you get that momentum. It helps you get started. You look it up actually. The Pomodoro, I think it's French. Was it French for tomato? um like because they use the kitchen timer in the shape of a tomato to set the timers to work and rest, and this can be helpful, right? If you tell yourself, I need to sit down, I need to write for 3 hours and then I'm done, right? You are more likely going to procrastinate. You're more likely gonna whip out your phone and I'll start in a bit, let me just surf Facebook for a bit, right? Let me check out Twitter, let me check out TikTok, right? When you just say I need to write for 15 minutes and that's it, right? You are more likely to start 15 minutes and you get to rest, right? It does help. Yeah, okay, let me see. Your outline turn into quick continuous writing. You're getting ideas down, you give dialogue and description later. Yeah, I think it's quite helpful to break it down into steps, right? Rather than trying to plan everything and write instantly. I like to make it easier, right? I plan the outline first and then I start writing a rough draft and then I start editing it. Like by breaking it down into simpler steps, it becomes less daunting. You think, okay, let's see. You think finish is better than perfect. It can feel a bit debilitating to chase perfection. Yeah, exactly. Like if you are going for perfection, it's quite bad. Yeah. So it's good. I think the problem with like unfinished stories is that it's not as nice to post, right? I think it's okay to, if you are trying to go for perfection, like here's one of the problems when you try to go for perfection, right? You write and you get halfway through or you get 2 to 3 chapters through and then you're just like, I don't like the earlier part. And so you go back and edit, right? And then you change some stuff here, you change some stuff there, the outline has to tweak, maybe the future stuff needs to be scrapped, and then you change back and forth, right? Part of it comes from the fear of having to publish it and it's not good enough, right? And so by continuously improving it, right, you never have to publish it, right? You just feel like you're getting better. You let your mind tells you that, oh, it's improving, don't worry, it's improving, right? The mind tells you are doing something, but at the end of like 5 to 10 years, like the book still isn't published. Like, then are you really doing anything? You know what I mean? I think it's better to get out one book or get out one story, right? And then you move on, right? Not everything you put out has to be perfect, right? Because you can imagine you're writing, say, a murder mystery, right? And then you start working on a murder mystery story, and then you write it, and then you tweak it, and then you tweak it again, right? Then maybe you say, oh shit, I don't really like how it's going again. Let me rewrite it, and then you rewrite everything again, right? Like 1 year later, you are still writing that same story. You have not gotten better at writing. You have just gotten better at writing that story, right? But you have not gotten better at writing in general, right? It's okay. Write that murder mystery, right? And then after that, once you get to put it down, right? Like once you're done, you upload it or you publish it somewhere, you put it down, you get started on another one, right? And it doesn't have to be a murder mystery. It could be a sci-fi space fantasy. And then it could be after that it could be romance, right? And then you learn writing, right? Rather than facing the same story and getting better at depicting the same scene over and over again, learn something new, right? I think that's more refreshing than grinding the same story over and over. I mean, it's up to you, but I recommend writing something new. And I think it's nice to slowly work your way through more and more stories, and as you grow, right, sometimes I look back on my old stories, right, and I see like, oh shit, my old stories were terrible, right, but that means I've improved over the years, right? But you can't see improvement over the years if you have nothing to show for the past years, right? So it just let it out, right? If anything, the shittier the current story is, the more accomplished you feel when you look back, right? So if it's shitty, let it be shitty. It's okay, right? Move on. Like free yourself. Okay. Any questions so far? So you ask how much writing in one day. Different authors will recommend different things. Some of them will say like, oh, I write for 3 hours a day because they do it full time or something. Some people will say 500 words a day, 1,000 words a day, 100 words a day. So long as you keep writing. I have not followed any of that, and I think it's really due to your life. Like it's up to you, right? It's your lifestyle. Um, I'm not a dedicated writer. Like my life again, right? I do a lot of things. I stream. I sing and play the guitar. I organize a local furry convention. Right, I do graphics design on the side. I work a full-time job on top of all of that, right? And all these hobbies take up time, right? It takes up time, and I don't have all the time in the world to do writing, right? When you have work, right, that's high priority. When you have a time sensitive task in organizing the convention, that takes time too, right? And so by the time all the energy is gone, you might not have time to write. And sometimes I spend weeks without writing, right? But I come back and then I'll write again. And then sometimes maybe I write 2 to 3 stories in a month, and then I go 2 to 3 months without writing. I I think it's okay, right? Life has, everyone's life is different. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's like commitment or passion for writing is different. Find something that works for you and just write. If you think you can do 100 words a day, do it. If you think you can do 1,000 words a day, do it. Right? But if you can't, right, don't let that stop you from writing. I don't like the idea of like gatekeeping and say you must write this much to be a writer. Being a writer is not a title. It's not something you earn by writing like 3,000 words a week or something. That's not how it works, right? Writing is a hobby, right? And you become a writer by writing. That's it. That's the definition of a word, right? If writing one story a year is writing to you, then do it, right? I'm not gonna gatekeep. I'm not gonna tell you no, right? Like better to write one story a year than no story at all, right? Like do what works for you, right? I don't know what your life is like, so don't let me dictate how you write. Yeah. Set a goal you can always accomplish one word a day. I mean, if it works for you. How much should you write daily every few days if you don't want to lose your age? I don't think I lose my age. Right. Again, there was the time that I said, right, I had to stop writing for a few months. Then I come back to it. Right. I did feel like suddenly the task is feels impossible. Like it feels like I'm facing a giant wall trying to get writing because how can I write? Right. So I started with just lowering the expectations and trying again. I think if you are if this hobby has turned into like a passion and it has turned into habit, right, you don't quite forget, right. Some things just get committed to muscle memory, right, and writing skills do get committed to muscle memory, right. Like if you went on a holiday for a week and then you came back, right, you're not gonna forget your grammar that you've learned in primary school because you have been using grammar, you have been using your vocabulary so much, right. You don't quite forget those. Right. Maybe it gets a while to like warm up and get back to where you were, but I don't think it just all disappears. Do you know or join any local writing groups or online locally? Um, we have a local Singapore furry writers group, but it's kind of inactive. Uh, I've also been trying to. There are some writing communities, on Telegram. There's a writers guild. I think they do a writing prompt every week. So every week they release a new writing prompt, and everyone just uploads a story with that theme. And some of it is just very simple stories, very short, right? Another place you can go. Let me show you actually. Uh, so Reddit writing prompts. Writing prompts are pretty cool. So writing prompts is a really popular subreddit. Usually just vote by top for this month or whatever. So what happens is um people will post writing prompts, and then people like other writers will go below and write. So here's an example, right? Humans are 1,000 times more sensitive to the smell of petrichor that you get with rain than sharks are to blood, with to no apparent evolutionary advantage. You are privileged to be part of the first welcoming committee to meet our non-human arrivals in person. They smell like petrichor. So petrichor is like, oh yeah, it does explain it here, like the smell that you get when rain comes. So you're welcoming them and they smell like petrichor. See? So what prompt do you come out with it, right? See, so some people will start writing what part one, part two, um, like wow, part four parts. Holy crap! Okay. See, people just write one-off stories, and then people upvote like, "Oh, that was awesome! Leave me wanting more." There are people who have started series on these uh that turn into book series. I think like some of these, right, they start one story and they love it so much, like the author loves it so much, right, that they turn it into they turn it into uh like a book series. There's also no sleep like horror thing. Most of it is like it's supposed for you to share personal experiences, but really it's a lot of people role playing scary stuff, scary situations. There's also short scary stories. Okay, look, alright, I do a lot of hobbies, a lot horror stuff. Yeah. See, one day the heads of all religions across the world receive a telepathic message. We are the Divine Protection Service. You have been removed from the care of your god for reasons of neglect. You will be entrusted to the care of a foster god. Right. A supervillain from the 30s flung into modern days tries to continue their life of villainy, but they find their ransoms are laughably small. Their radio trucks are fought by boxes the civilians carry, probably phones, and their plan to kill the global elite is getting a lot less pushback than expected. Right. Yeah. So you see all these things. You help years ago you accidentally helped a mob boss change a flat while transporting a corpse, being promised a favor in return. Now desperately you seek them to cash in on your favor. Yeah. So you die two deaths, your physical death and your true death when your name is spoken for the last time. You, a mild-mannered introvert, have been stuck in limbo for centuries waiting for your true death, and you finally found out why. So these are pretty cool, right? Like these are ways that you can get started into writing, right? I think it's better to write because you have something to write than you try to write just to meet a word quota. I think that like it's a hobby, right? No one here, hopefully no one here is trying to do it professionally and you're looking for some hobbyist writer for a course. You remember to note down Reddit writing prompts and no sleep. Yeah, there are a lot of writing ones. So I recommend looking those up. I recommend finding ways that you can keep up the passion, or if you have a story to tell, right? Tell it, right? I think is important. Okay. Any other questions? You've been making artwork for years, and those are the stories you can work on. Yeah, exactly, right? Okay, let's move on. So self promotion is I'm just gonna type very lightly on this. So first things first, you can upload. You can think about what platform you wanna write. There's different platforms and different platforms have different niches, different flavors. If you are not sure, you can always upload it across all the platforms and find out. uh, so for instance, Fur Affinity and So Furry are more furry, uh, very like geared. DeviantArt is kind of like a bit of furries here and there. Archive of Our Own is mostly fan fiction, I think. Most people will be like, oh yeah, Naruto and Sasuke do something, something, something. Harry Potter and Lord Voldemort and Draco Malfoy gets up to something, something, something. I don't know. Okay. Uh, yeah. So all these kind of things. Figure out which platform you like. Which one gives you better traction. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So imagine this, right? You come to someone's story and then you see it's someone's profile page and then you see this and you're just like, oh, huh, I don't know what I should read, huh, right? And that can be very annoying, okay, cause people need to people coming to your profile will want to know what's up, right? So it depends on the platform, right? If you go to certain platforms meant for writing, those will show you the story title and then they'll show you all the tags and so they're like, oh okay, this is a gay romance story. So like you'll see the title, then you see gay romance, then you see school or college scenario, and like they'll put out some text so you know what to expect, and that helps to tell people like, yo, if you are interested in like gay romance, read this, right? Those are not as those are a bit more difficult. So usually what I recommend is like to kind of tag your stories and put that in a thumbnail so you people know what to expect. That kind of helps a lot, I think, in for Fur Affinity, because that tells me what I will actually go and click on. Yeah, and because it's usually the more experienced writers who do this, I can expect it to generally be higher quality. So just something to keep in mind on how to pick how to design thumbnails. I actually have a page where I do this. So you can choose like background image. For Affinity, thumbnail sizes are 120 by 120. Pick a color. Let's do darker black. Then we can do like just different colors on everything. Then you just type the text. So like, oh, Decorous backstory. Oh, the font is too big, so I could make it smaller. Okay, it isn't the best UI because it's been so long since I've done it. But then you're like, oh, so let's say high school, and then actually let's remove this. I don't want a subtitle. Yeah, so I could do high school, gay romance, coming out story. Yeah. So probably want the font to be bigger, and so you'll change that. 16? Yeah. Or maybe I'll do this bigger. Yeah, a lot of it is just playing around. I'm sorry. It's not like it's been years since I coded this one. I keep meaning to revamp it to make it better, but I have not gotten around to it. Okay. Alright. But basically, okay, it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be. I'm sorry. Let's just make this left align, make this center align. You know what? Let's actually make it look nice. This is Libre. Think before everyone thinks like it's a terrible application because like I just like making a mess of it. See, tada! You have this. Whoa. So a thumbnail will like you can do it really quickly once you figure it out. Then the thumbnail will you just save the thumbnail and then you can actually use it for your stories. It depends on platform to platform. Some of the platforms like SoFairy will actually show the. Can I show it? Cause I'm very scared of opening something and then like NSFW comes up. Don't really want. Okay, you can turn it to save for work. No, don't worry about it. Okay, I'll double check. The thumbnails are not loading superb. Okay, take my word for it. It will show. It will show a story. It will show the story with the tag, so you don't have to worry about thumbnails that much. But in certain cases like for Affinity, the thumbnails will help. So see the platform you're on, adapt it accordingly. Right. Another thing, talk to another more writers. I think the furry community has a lot of writers that, you know, like it ends up becoming like a very solo activity. That's a problem, and that's not. I don't know. I like I don't like to feel like I'm the only writer. So I think it's nice to talk to other writers. Look, we have a community of writers here in class, right? What I usually do is I go to if I see a new writer appear on Affinity or someone I've never seen before, I'm like, oh yo, you are. I noticed that you are new, or like I'll be like, oh I see you are writing certain stories. Like we share similar interests, right? You seem to write fantasy stuff, right? And I also like fantasy stuff, or like or it's cool to meet another furry writer. Yo, let's chat more, and then you use that as a you use that as a starting ground, right? Because if you are if you are craving that social interaction, right? You're not the only one, right? Other people are craving that social interaction, but they don't know how to reach out, right? Just as maybe someone else, you're thinking down there, someone can reach out to me if they want to talk to me, but other people are also thinking the same thing, right? So just reach out to them. Most people are very happy to talk, right? You could write together, you could do collabs. I've collabed with writers in the past also. We'll like maybe we'll write like different parts of it, then edit for each other. Or we will write maybe it's a story with two characters, and then we'll each write like our character's point of view that eventually comes to like a shared conclusion together. But we're writing the same story from different perspective, right? Yeah, I think it's cool to interact. Let's see. Well, you're heavily introverted, you're scared of showing your work out there, then it's fine, right? If you don't want to upload, then don't. I think it's okay. But I think for me, I I write like me writing and putting my stuff out there because some of the stuff I write is very niche, right? And sometimes it feels like, oh, I'm the only one who likes these kind of things, right? But writing out these things, right, has helped me and people interact with like, yo, this is so good, right? Then it helps me see that even though the stuff I like is niche, right, there are people who share the same interests and that I'm not alone in this. And I think it can be very like affirming to know that you're not alone. So I think that's kind of why I write as well. Right. I think it's a way for me to find people with similar interests. It's a way for me to be comfortable with who I am. I think it's a good, and if it tells other people that hey, you are not alone in your niche interest as well, then I think that's good, right? Like my stories can be that positive impact in that sense. Yeah. Okay. Build a community. I have tried to build a writing community in like the local Singapore local fandom. But I don't think we have that strong of a writing culture, or like the people who do write, they write like one story every like 6 months. So like the chat tends to be very dead. Uh I I've been meaning over the years. I've been like, one day I should organize like a get together just to do writing. It could be just like we go to a cafe, right? We bring our pen and paper or notebook or an iPad and then just write stories together, right? I've been meaning to do that. I have not had the time to organize it, but if any of the local furs here would like to help, we can consider. Yeah, but I think building a community is important. That's kind of part of the reason I organize this writing workshop, so people can help each other, give feedback, chit chat, share resources. I think it writing in the end, like when you're writing, it can feel like a solo activity because no one is there, right? No one, you interact with nobody until you put the book down in front of somebody, right? And like uh that's not fun, right? And I think having a community to do things together is good. You see, if there's not enough interest, there's always the internet. I mean, yes and no, but you do get like the issue of like say time zones, right? Or and there's always the worry if that you invite a lot of people who are interested in writing, but they don't actually write regularly. They say, oh yeah, sure, I'm interested, right? But not everyone will follow through, and not everyone will follow your weekly writing prompts, and then people will slowly eventually just give up and then the chat dies. I like that happens quite easily, so it's just something to look out for. But I mean, don't let that stop you from trying also. I think it's important, right? And this writing workshop is like, if you guys find writers, right, other if you find, each other's stories, you read each other's stories and you're just like, oh wow, I feel like I can learn from this person, and the other person's like, oh, I feel like I can learn from you, and then you can start chatting, right? Start to edit each other's stories or start to chat about your interests. I think like it does help with the writing journey, right? You don't have to do this alone. Okay, moving on. Commissions. Okay, commissions was one of the things that like got me one of like the ideas. How to say? I started writing in very early on, like back when I mean, whatever writing in school up to the age of 12 aside. I think I started writing again when I was like 18 or 19. I started writing on and off. I think I got 13 stories done in about 6 to 8 years. 13 stories, and they're very short stories, right? So it wasn't a very big thing. Then one day I was just like on the, like, I think for Affinity, and I saw people doing writing commissions. And I was like, looking at my writing, like I think at that time I started writing again. I just wrote 2 new stories in a course of 1 to 2 months. And I was like, I wonder if people would pay me to write these stories, right? So I was like, it felt like a challenge to me. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna find out, right? I'm gonna find out if I'm good enough for people to pay me to write. And so I started writing, and then I slowly like gained some interest. And then someone asked me out of nowhere, do you do commissions? I was like, oh wow, I currently don't, but I would be interested. Come here, let's discuss. Right. And so that was like my first commission, and it was interesting, right? Like trying out writing. But it's a whole different ball game because like you are no longer in full control of how you want to outline and how you want to write. Like there's suddenly more pressure because you have to deliver a story, right? You can't just like take the money and disappear. Oh, you know what? I'm not interested in this story, then just disappear. You can't, right? And so there's a bit more pressure. they will like the person who's commissioning you will have a bit more say in the storyline, right? And so you if you maybe you prefer it a certain way but they want it the other way, right? You should probably go with the way that they want, right? Yeah, so I think it's interesting. It's a whole different ball game, but I think it's interesting because you learn a lot of new skills like how do I price it in a way that's fair, right? Do you want to charge by words, by pages, or do you want to charge per hour, right? Do you want to like I do one of the strategies I tried was like $10 base and then $10 per word. This was very early on, so I was charging very cheap. But the $10 base, then $10 per thousand words. The reason why there's the base is because I do the outlining and I include that as part of it. But later on I just moved to like a fixed amount per thousand words. Um yeah, so like then you slowly learn how to do you increase your prices over time, right? How do you so like when I was starting out, I started with low prices because I want to attract people and gain that traction, right? I want people to because if you come in and you see this person has written absolutely like two or three stories only, right? You're not gonna be like, oh yeah, sure, let's put down like $30 per thousand words, right? But if they are charging cheap and you'll be like, ah yeah, sure, I guess we'll take a chance, right? And so charging low can help, right? Having thumbnails on your story can help. Having like how do you promote yourself, right? With your commissions. Over time I also started to do YCHs. So YCH stands for your character here. I will write like a story outline and say I will write your character into this story, right? Like like who's interested, and usually I get a lot of biters. um and sometimes I do it as an auction style. So like I'll do it like, oh okay, people bid to get it, and then like maybe at $50 you unlock this additional scene, or at $100 I'll add this extra parts. Some of the my auctions that I've done goes up to like $200, $300, and I'm just like, yo, chill, oh my goodness, you guys. Yeah, so I think it's interesting, right? It's a whole different ball game, and you learn a lot of things. USD, yeah, it's a whole different ball game. I think it's very interesting to explore this scene lah, because if that some people, right, they actually feel more motivated to write commissions because there's money involved rather than their own personal stories. So find what works for you, right? Okay, any questions? Okay, no questions. You can move on. Oh, okay. How do you refine? What do you mean refine? The cost of commissions. I started low and then I slowly increased. Think about demand and supply, right? If like 10 people want to commission you, but you only have time to do three, right? Slowly increase your prices until three people commission you, like a month, right? If let's say a month you write three, and but a month 10 people want to commission you, yeah, then you slowly increase, right? Or if you know, the yeah, can figure it out. I have not done commissions in like 3 to 4 years because I think like time is at a premium for me. I started working. I want to do my own hobbies. I want to write stories for myself. This is something I had to learn also, right? Where I started doing commissions, and then whenever I wanted to write stories for myself, my mind just goes, but you could be writing this for like $25 per 1,000 words, right? And then I have to ask myself, is this $5,000 word story worth $125? And then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll write the commission. I write commissions instead of writing for myself. And then it started to feel like my hobby of writing was turning into a commodity for people to buy and sell. And I was like, you know what? This is not healthy. I need to make time to write my own stories also. This is my passion, right? And if writing for other people kills my passion, then I don't want to do that many commissions. So I prioritize myself. I prioritize my stories. I do commissions here and there when I feel up for it, but I don't push myself to do it. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Um. Okay, reviewing lesson 10. I mean, it's up to you. Feel free to write what you want. You don't have to write everything within the rules. Okay, next section. So this is the third part. All right, we're gonna show you how to experiment with different mediums. All right, so far we've taught you how to write a story, right? A standalone story. How about a book, right? And book you normally want to outline, because if you're gonna write 100,000 words or whatever, that's gonna, you don't want to have any plot holes, right? Or any continuity errors or whatever. Outlines will help, right? After that you do the writing. Oops, sorry. Then you do editing. But after that you need to think about more stuff. Typography, right? The book cover design and how to publish, right? So here's an example. Like I published a book a few years back. This is a fairly short book. So it's an, I think the length makes it count as a novella, about 25,000 words. So it's a romance story. And so I typography is like basically the layout of words on the page. I basically formatted everything to be super nice. I don't remember how many pages, but again, it depends on your font size, right? Yes. So you see, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make chapter 1, then chapter 2, and the like the title, and then after that I commission an artist. I commissioned and I paid extra. I told them, yo, this is gonna be in a book that I'm selling, right? You're not, because if it's for personal use, usually artists charge cheaper, right? But if it's for commercial use, then artists do expect to be paid. So I told them like, yo, this is for commercial use. Can I get you to draw me the book cover, and as well as like illustrations within the book? And then they're like, sure, and I paid a lot of money for it. uh I did sell the book. I did make about 300 to 400 USD, but for the art alone I paid 800 USD. If I remember the numbers correctly. So overall I lost money, but I'm very happy to have published the book. Probably trying to do all the illustrations and stuff might not have been the best idea, but I wanted it to look nice, right? And so there's a lot of like, you do typography, the page numbers are nice. Like a lot of it is like understanding that you need to put the dashes in the right spots as well, so that the words look nice. Because otherwise you get very weird spacing. Like you see, even here, you see the spacing here is a bit wider than usual. You need to make sure that you don't start getting weird gaps within your story. So these are stuff that you need to think about. Yeah, and then like printing the book cover. See, they're like, I get the artist to design. I lay it out here. I put like the title. Here's the spine. Here's like the margins, because the bleed. That means when they cut, they will cut along this line. They won't just cut the edges. They'll cut along the line. Why? Because if you cut along the line, you might, if the knife shifts a bit, you might end up with white edges. So by cutting inside, right, even if it shifts a bit, you won't get any white edges. So that's how you do, right? That's how you design a book. So that's quite fun. They're interactive stories. So this one was a story that I wrote a few years back also. I was inspired by a certain game in RuneScape. It's one of the quests, right? And so you start with one chapter unlock, or it's not really a chapter. It's like a very short story. It's not a choose your own adventure. It's very very different. Okay, this is very different. I recommend it. So like, let's say you're looking at this, right? You see, you read the story. I closed the double wooden doors to the church after me. The sandstorm is brewing outside again, and I'm thankful for the shelter. I slipped the straps of my hefty backpack off my shoulders, letting it fall to the floor in a puff of fine sand. Without hesitation, I take off my balaclava and outer shirt. Fresh air caresses my skin, and I heave a sigh of relief. Right? So now let's think of the keywords, right? What are the things of interest? Let's say church. Church seems interesting. So I'm going to type in church. See, it unlocks chapter 2, right? The church. A familiar sight, but one I have not seen in years. The sanctuary is small and dusty. Sand has blown in through the broken windows and gaps in the walls. Broken pews are everywhere. The statue of Mother Mary looks down upon the devastated ruins of the chapel. So basically, you jump between the chapters, the sections or shards, right? So let's say I try a different word, sandstorm, right? So I'm gonna type sandstorm. So I unlock chapter 22. Sandstorms are the norm now ever since the scorch. Your only warning is the sweltering winds that sweep up around you. Within the hour, you'll be caught in the storm if you don't reach shelter in time. At best, it delays your journey a little. At worst, it leads to a whole load of health problems. A balaclava like the one I'm wearing is insufficient. Sand gets in your lungs and eyes. Dust pneumonia, lung disease, silicosis, dry eyes, blindness. In a post-apocalyptic world without proper healthcare, I can't take any chances. See, so you're slowly unlocking, right? So the entire story has 54 sections. You are unlocking bits of the story based on the keywords you type. Yeah, so this was quite fun. If you have time, right? The link is in the slides. Try it out if you wanna give that a go. Do tell me if you finished the story and what you think, because this is something new and I loved writing it. In fact, I wrote the engine that you see, like, because I do coding as well. So I wrote that engine, right? And then I wrote the story after that. In fact, I wrote the story, then I wrote the engine. But that's details. Another thing that I did was for the furry convention that I was organizing. So my partner Correct help to. In fact, he written the murder mystery, but I coded the engine for this. So basically, how it works is that throughout our social media announcements and throughout the convention, we release like 6-letter codes hidden in puzzles. And whenever you solve a puzzle, right, you'll get the 6-letter code and you type it here into the keypad area. If it's something correct, you unlock a chapter, right? And each chapter adds up. So each chapter of the story adds up where you have to solve puzzles within the chapter. I think it should still be up actually. Yeah. Correct. Can you think of a code like middle code? Let me try silent. Yeah. So it's like here's the story. I tried something, and then like there's stuff, and then halfway through they'll come out with like more puzzles, and then as you type, you need to solve the puzzle, and then you need to think like something whatever. Yeah. So by solving it, you unlock even more of the hints or more of the storyline, and in this way, right, by solving the puzzles throughout the entire convention, you get to who did the murder. Because there is a murder mystery. The theme of this convention was murder mystery, and basically by trying to solve it, you find out who did it. It was super fun. I think quite a lot of people enjoyed it. But the amount of effort though, like Correct wrote like pages and pages of it, and then a lot of time went into developing the puzzles, testing them with friends, making sure that the puzzles are not too difficult, right? Because when you make a puzzle yourself, it makes sense to you, right? It's easy to you because you came up with it, right? But when a person comes in with no context and they have to figure it out on their own, oh, that's so hard. Yeah, so that was quite fun, right? I wrote the engine for this. It was oh it's enjoyable, right? But writing can take different forms, right? I mean, choose your own adventures are super obvious. I think a lot of people do it these days. Twine is an engine for writing choose your own. Yeah, it's an open source tool for telling interactive, not linear stories. So let's see if there are tutorials. Blah blah blah. How to use. You know what? Let's YouTube Twine tutorial writing. Visual? No, it's not a visual novel. But basically the idea is that you can write a choose your own adventure game with all the text. This is like text based lah. Yeah. So here's the editor, and then you start with writing, and then as you write, you can put like the options. You say which one it jumps to, and then it starts to draw the branching tree for you, and then you can start to turn it into a whole format. And this is how you can write choose your own adventures, right? Without learning coding. All you have to do is write this. And then you can set like, certain variables like, you want to make sure, oh, do you pick up an item? Okay, you pick up the item, set save mode to 1, right? And based on that, you can do different things. See? And then you can do like different, oh, if save mode is 1, then the option is open and then you can jump to a certain chapter. Otherwise, you have to continue to this way. And then you can do like use this way to kind of set conditions. Do you pick up items? Do you like if you found the key, you can unlock the door, stuff like that. So it's super cool. There's also Ren'Py. Okay, you know what? Let me send you guys the link to this also. Ren'Py is RENPY. It's a visual novel thing, but it's a bit harder because you have to worry about like you have to worry about like art, right? So if you're not good at art, you might have to find an artist to help you. If you are familiar with Doki Doki Literature Club, that's built in Ren'Py as well. It's actually very powerful, and if you are familiar with Python, this will be very easy to pick up. So check that out as well. Visual novels are also a very fun way to enjoy stories. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No. You've seen Ren'Py in use before? Yeah, I mean it's quite popular actually. It's one of the more popular visual novel engines. Yeah. Pine is also quite popular, so consider that. Visual novel, choose your own. Yeah. Look, writing is amazing. Like there's so many things you could do, right? Like you can do things beyond a page, and you know, like when you are when you when you write something, you can reach out, you can make people feel things, you can make people think deep thoughts, you can make them question like the fundamentals of the universe or like the way we live in society. You can like you can change the world, right? Like at least in theory. Right, but you can like touch people's lives, can help people think. I think writing is definitely like one of it's a very powerful medium, right? And if you are willing to explore, I think we can do so much more. My wife has been considering trying to write a visual novel, so Ren'Py is very helpful. Yes, you give it a go. It's actually very easy to use. Try out the tutorial. You want to try so many things. You want to do comics to merge your art with writing. Yeah, please do. Yeah, so that's the end of today's lesson actually. Yeah, the amount of content that I was gonna cover today wasn't super extensive. So I'm happy that we managed to we managed to use the full hour rather than like, oh yeah, haha, like we're done in 15 minutes, you guys can go home now. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Ren'Py is fun, though if you have never coded before, there's some effort. Ren'Py is actually quite easy to use. It's not that bad. So what I recommend is you go to Ren'Py's website and then you do a quick start. They literally show you how to start, like step by step. It's a UI. Okay, so you see, all you do is if Sylvie says something, you just put Sylvie, and then hey there, how's class? Then me, good. And then you just put dialogue. It's almost like you're writing a story in text. It is easy to use, but there are some intuition about coding to a certain extent. But for most people, they don't have to touch it. The most people use is like the branching paths, right? And branching paths are quite doable, I guess. I think you can get it without coding knowledge. You need to refresh on coding skills. I think you can learn it while using Ren'Py. It can be frustrating to a non-programmer. Oh, okay, I see. Is this Python underlying? Yes, Python. You might be biased because you do coding, but Vampire looks easy to pick up. I know people who are non-tech actually use Vampire as well. I think you can learn as you go. If anything, like sometimes knowing coding can actually like makes you confused because like how does this work? Yeah. Okay, but you guys can have fun with it. All right, I'm not gonna argue about like Vampire or whatever. You know, there are a lot of engines out there. If you don't like Vampire, there's something else. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Any other questions? Any other like thoughts you guys have in mind, or any other mediums you wanna suggest to people? Like, maybe there's like a form of writing that you found that's actually quite fun for you, and then you want to share it. Interactive AI interactive bot. Ah, I know some games are starting to do that, but the AI has been lackluster so far. Yeah, inspired to try out branching adventure and writing. Yeah, choose your own adventures are great. Those are super fun. I think when you get to choose your own adventure, right? Players, it's not even readers anymore, they're your players, right? They get more invested in the story because these are no longer like decisions that the character is making. These are decisions that they themselves are making. And so they're more invested in the story. You rather like writing in the markdown file, which is weird, but one thing you like not having stuff like spell check up front. Oh. It's messy. Yeah. But there are a lot of options. In fact, like some people don't even use, like for instance, I just say use Google Docs, right? Reviner, I think. There's there are actual programs meant for writers. All right. So let's take a look. All right. Let's see if I can pull up some of the stuff for you. The pictures are very small, but basically the idea is you can organize your story by chapters. You can put a synopsis. You can take notes. At every step of the way, you can make down notes. By the way, so and so did this. By the way, whatever. And then I think they're adding comments and highlights here. See, make this punchier, right? To dos, so that you can go and search back, right? You see, they have like what bracket develop marriage backstory. I think they can put notes and stuff. Front matter is basically the front of the book, like the cover, the credits, the forward from like author or about the author. Please check out my other books, right? All these stuff. You see, there's a folder for research. There are some template sheets as well. I think it exports into book form for you. Um, what other features are there? Yeah, so they're doing like a lot of like first draft. Oh, does it have version control? I don't know, right? You can really look at your book properly, right? See, comments, footnotes, um, yeah, and then publishing. I think you can publish into PDF, Word, or plain text, or whatever. You publish into different formats. So, Scrivener is very like it's something that people recommend. You can consider as well. Yeah. Okay. Oh, choose your own adventure stories are fun. You've been working on one for a while. The hardest thing for you is like the amount of stuff you end up having to write. Yeah, okay. So when you write choose your own adventure, it starts to branch, right? Imagine you branch 2 or 3 times, right? And each branch has 3 choices, right? By the end, like 3 times 3 times 3 gives you like 27 different paths, right? All the different endings. And even if some paths merge back, right, you might want to say, oh, if you chose this earlier, it plus 3 points. If you chose this earlier, it minuses 2 closeness points. And then if you reach the end, it will determine whether or not you get the good ending or the bad ending, right? Then then you need to start thinking about all the different paths they can take and what's the average number of points that a person can get. How difficult are you going to make it to get like 10 points, 20 points to get the good ending, right? And then you need to think about balancing and you need to like play test it because sometimes the different choices will affect the feel of the story, right? If you merge it together, can you imagine like they have a fight, then the next time they meet, they're like, oh hi, welcome back, right? No, you can't just merge it, right? If you have two paths, one is a fight and one is a friendly path, you can't just merge it back and then the next time they meet, they're friendly again. No, you have to do an entirely different path because you can't be angry one moment and then the next moment you're happy, right? So all these things you need to take into account when you write like branching stories. It can get very messy, but don't take my word for it. Try it yourself and enjoy it. Yeah. Probably want to make literature that has good disability representation. Wow, yeah, that's gonna be a challenge, especially if you don't like if it's good if if you have that disability that you want to portray. Otherwise, like, if you don't have it, please be extra sensitive because you don't want to do it in a insensitive way, or you don't want it to feel ableist or all sorts of things. Yeah. Oh man. Writing though. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for next week's lesson, I don't have any like material prepared. The plan is I will just like we can skim through some stories. You guys can tell me about like the experience because I'm interested. Like you guys have been listening to me talk for the past 11 lessons, so right, like, feel free to give feedback next week. What your thoughts, if you actually enjoy writing, or like you have sparked new inspiration, or like you have learned new things. Like, I'm happy to hear. We can go through all of that next week. For those who, if you've done all your homework religiously, I will pass you guys your certificates as well. But like, there's no rush. Okay, let's say you in a few months time you say, okay, finally, Decro, I finished all my homework, right? I have all the I have all your certificates. Actually, I've generated all your certificates already. Everyone who signed up via the Google form, I already have the certificate. So just tell me when you are done, right? I will just send it to you. Just whatever makes you happy, because this in the end, it's not like I'm a school, like I'm a educational institution where I have to worry about the quality of our graduate students. Like, if you do the homework, like, I'll send it to you. Yeah, I'm happy that you guys are going through the course. I'm happy that people are trying out the homework, because this is a project that I came up with on a whim, impulsive whim. I'm just like, what if I taught writing, right? And I'm just like, let's go. And then it's just weeks and weeks of planning the syllabus and planning the material. So if like all the effort count, adds up, and you guys are like, oh man, I learned new things, I'm happy, right? So we'll see. We can talk about it next week, and then we'll wrap up, and then I will finally have my Saturday evenings free. You want me to talk next week? I mean, it's up to you. You guys can chat. You wish you wish I was your English teacher? Oh my goodness. Sure. I mean, that would be fun, but like, I don't think I can handle like the amount of paperwork you need to do in school as a teacher. Yeah. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson so far. We'll see you guys next week. And then we'll wrap up, and you guys can have your Saturday mornings or afternoons or evenings free. Alright. I'll leave you guys to it. Okay. Have a good day, you guys, and bye.